Hello everybody, and welcome back to my single-player modded Minecraft world. Ouch. Now, last episode, we built our lovely pond down here and our wonderful little dinosaur exhibit for... I'm just gonna miss that, perfect. That's okay. Well, for our Codoliruncuses here. And as you can see, they have grown up to be very big boys and girls indeed. It's been really fun watching them wander around this place. They do wander around the whole exhibit. They don't seem to be taking damage anywhere, which is awesome. And our fish are also perfectly safe in their pond. So this, I think, was a very big success. And I'm very excited to get to work on our next exhibit. Our next exhibit is not what we are going to be doing today, however, or at the very least, not our next dinosaur exhibit. We have a couple of things, as always. The first of which is going to be a little bit of a chore. As you guys can see, I've been continuing to work out of our little starter house's furnace setup. I really need to renovate in here, but that's not a problem for right now. And I've been going through a lot of materials, a lot of copper, you know, a lot of iron, and I have a lot of that I need to smelt. And running back and forth between my new storage room and the starter base just to smelt only a couple stacks of copper isn't really doing it for me. I'm not enjoying that very much. So what we are first going to work on today is going to be another addition onto this little row of kind of public buildings that we are building up here. And we're going to build a little smeltery here. It'll be semi-automatic. I'm probably not going to build a whole entire, you know, a fancy super smelter setup. Just something where I can pretty simply stick my items in and they'll come out without me having to stick around and wait for them. I have dug out and kind of placed a little bit of an outline for us for this little smeltery area. A couple things to note. Of course, it is pretty small. Like I said, I don't need this to be very big. I'm gonna have a kind of decorated smelting area over here, and then have the actual setup with, you know, some furnaces and everything right here. I am going to have, let's see, this is the doorway to nowhere from the library. This is just going to be a little access point into the back of the storage stuff for when I get that set up as an automatic sorter. So this will just be another access point, so I can also get to the back of the smelting setup if I need to do any fixing back there, since there will be a little bit of redstone involved. So as you can see, I have started building up a little bit of our facade for this smithery here. It does actually connect, as I said, right into the library with access room to... I need to put some chests in here still for the coal. That way I have a very small automatic smelter going on. I don't really need anything big yet. Possibly won't ever. I guess we'll see how long this series goes. So I'm using this deep slate because I want to stick with a similar palette to the rest of our builds, but I want to subvert it a little bit. I'm thinking I'm going to do a line of copper here, kind of where I might usually have the deep slate, probably in a slightly different pattern. I'm still debating what I want, I guess, kind of on the third layer of the kind of sandwich style building I kind of do. don't think I want to do much wood at all in this build, just because of the fact that this is, you know, somewhere where there's a lot of fire and heat going on. In theory, there would be a lot higher chances for, you know, fires to break out when things are made of wood. So, let's see, do I have any nice alternative stones to use? I could, I think, if I want to stay in a similar color palette, I think I do, I might go with bricks and some granite. I think maybe I actually have access to, yeah, some slightly different granite textures with the quark bricks. Although honestly, I don't really like how those look, so I'll probably stick to the regular granite. Alright guys, as you can see, I have completed, more or less anyway, the exterior of our little smithery. I did go with that brick and granite, and I ended up going out and grabbing a little bit of dripstone, since I knew there was a cave nearby as well, for the top. And at this point, we're just kind of waiting for that copper to oxidize to, I hope, bring it together. I am admittedly debating. I said a lot, no wood, for, you know, something lore, burning down, whatever. But I feel like a little bit, like some pillars on the corners, the way I have in the barn, would really tie this together a little bit. It still looks a little plain. Instead of going with the sign that I did with the library, I used some trapdoors and an actual anvil up there as a little bit of a sign. And I also have these kind of crates out here of presumably finished products with the iron, oops, as well as some coal to pack in. The roof here is flat, and there is a little bit of a chimney, although it isn't really that visible from downstairs. I might put like a little sitting area up here. It depends on what I ultimately end up putting up in this area. I think I'll have some kind of road tying all of these buildings together. More or less finished our foundry, and as you can see, built a new custom tree right here. Kind of start to fill in. Of course, it will start raining while I'm recording. Just to fill in this space a little bit more. Need a couple more ideas of what to put around here. I guess I could continue the flower field, but maybe some boulders or another tree up there just to break it up a bit. Regardless, I also added, not the rest of the path apparently, but this staircase up to this floor here. And I added a small kind of, I guess, vent or grate up at the top to allow, you know, any excess smoke that might be collecting inside through. Although, when you actually come inside, you can actually see up there, so it's maybe a bit of a moot point, but it looks nice. I did this little bit of an interior. We do have stone floors instead of the usual oak, and I'm using these columns as a kind of counter for any customers that would come into this quote-unquote shop. I of course have my automatic setup back here, and I have a little bit of a smithy setup, I guess, over here, with some coal ore on the floor for like scorch marks, or, I mean, even coal dust, really. I think I might come in with maybe, I don't know if there's anything like a tool. Yeah, maybe some tool racks, maybe some armor stands to decorate this out a little bit more, but I couldn't think of exactly what I might put up there. I don't really know what goes into a smithy. The hammers, probably? Maybe some swords? I'll think about it. So I have come back with some of those tool racks, as well as just a couple more decorative items. And I guess I'll just kind of put them up and see what we get here. I also have some armor stands. I'm thinking I might try to use them to kind of lean some of these tools, in particular the sword, possibly the pitchfork. I haven't really decided yet, up against like the wall instead of hanging somewhere. We'll see if this... okay. I don't like that it's hanging like that at all, actually. Why is it hanging from the hammer part, not the handle? Horrid. Okay, maybe I need a lot more armor stands than I thought I did. That's not something anybody wants to watch, though. Put that there. Got another little pot, it's really cute. We'll put it there. Maybe I could get a flower pot and put it on top so I can have a little flower in here. Do all the tools hang like that? Yes, they're all ugly. Okay, that's fine. We can make it work. I also have that for a little bit of easy placement. I don't like how flat that is. Is there coal slabs? There's not. It doesn't seem like I have any like frame type, like the create mods framed blocks either. That let you make slabs out of things that don't have. Why would you cook? Okay, that's an effigy. I thought you could cook the slabfish, and I was terrified for a minute. Once again, I thought this was okay. No, this is how you feed that to them. I have a slabfish somewhere. They're very cute little guys. Alright, so I did come in and I put those tools up with some armor stands, as you can see, if I can... Yep, here we go. And I put a little sword leaning up against our counter over here. I also, as you can see, put up this blackboard, I guess, so whoever owns this hypothetical shop can be using it to keep track of orders. I even went ahead and wrote some of those hypothetical orders on there and put a little hammer. Maybe that's the symbol he puts on his business cards. And that leaves this shop pretty much finished. There might be a little bit more exterior work to be done, maybe some plants on this little bit of a cliffside that has been left in between the shop and the staircase up. But besides that, I am pretty happy with how this turns out and ready to move on to our main build for the day. So next, as I mentioned earlier, I want to work on the reptile house, and I mentioned I wanted to do it at the top of the hill, but then I was thinking about what I might put in this valley here, and I think I might actually do another kind of flat-topped building that you can walk out on top of, like a deck on top, and have the circle come out here, down in this valley, kind of on the same Y level as the rest of the buildings we've been doing. That way we can kind of merge this area with the start of our animal areas a little bit better. Something horrible's happened. Oh, I guess it's not that horrible for me. Oh. Lovely. Where are the rest of you? Dude, you made me kill my chicken. And no, it was a duck. Oh, that's even worse. Oh. Please tell me there's none in the cow pen. Okay. They're not cows, they're yaks. So it has once again been a while since I recorded. The last time I was on, I got tired in the middle of the raid. It felt like it just kept going on and on and on. And so I logged off, and then things occurred as they do, and I logged back in. Ironically, apparently, I gave up right before the very last wave, because I logged on, they had all spawned over there, I killed them, and now I'm done. I did get a fairly good, you know, amount of totems of undying, as well as emeralds from the raid, so overall pretty worth it. And I also got this heart container from the Breath of the Wild mod, so a little bit more health certainly won't go amiss. So I am not sure if I ever even bothered to show the kind of basic build, I guess, the outline, if you will, of this reptile house before I went ahead and finished it off camera, mostly just because I felt like building and I didn't feel like dealing with the hassle of recording, to be honest with you, while I built, and at a certain point it just became about, this was a pretty frustrating build to make, and I didn't want to have to deal with both recording and thinking of how to record things and when to talk to you guys about things and what to talk about while trying to figure out how to make it work. But that being said, I am quite happy with how this turned out. As always, we definitely do still have some copper oxidizing down, but besides that, this reptile house is finished for at least the time being. I did have that round shape that I believe I mentioned when discussing my plans for this, and I do have a little seating area up here. This may eventually change into something else. I haven't quite decided yet. I have possibly some dreams of putting an aquarium up here, kind of a little bit smaller but following the same general shape, but I don't want to leave it blank for the time being. And the other thing that you've definitely already seen is this kind of little snake sculpture I did. I don't do this kind of thing a lot, this kind of like sculpture-y, organic-y building type of building, I guess. But I was trying to think of what to put as some kind of sign or designator of what this building is, because you really can't tell from the outside otherwise, and there were no really good signs I could think of, and I thought of a snake kind of hanging on to show that this is where you can find snakes and potentially other reptiles. Now, I am very happy. I really enjoy this kind of style of window I have going around here. This is going to be something I have to use again in the future. But as for the interior, of course behind me you can see there's a rather larger terrarium, but I do have a smaller one up here that I put a small lizard in. Of course, in real life you should never do that to a lizard. That is much too small an enclosure and it has absolutely no enrichment, but this is Minecraft. He's fine. And over to the side here, I have a kind of feeding area, I guess. This is a worm bin, so this makes worms for fishing. And I have these two terrariums, because I do have some various bugs that I can find that I would like to put in them here eventually. I did actually have a beetle up in this one, but unfortunately it seems to have despawned. Now, of course, the last thing in here is the big enclosure for our hognose snakes. I do also actually have some ball-nose snake, or some ball pythons, excuse me, as well as an iguana I was thinking about putting in here, but the space is a little too small for the ball pythons, this enclosure, and ultimately this space, although it felt very large to me at the time, definitely feels a little too small to fit in another large enclosure in it. So I am going to have to consider if I want to expand this, maybe underground somewhere. Maybe I replace that aquarium idea with another enclosure for these guys. Or maybe I expand this and make another kind of shelf up here that I put one on. That will have to be a decision I make later. But for now, these hognose snakes do fit in rather wonderfully. Now, I'm thinking I have put one in already, but I have a second, and I'm hoping if I just kind of... Yep, there we go. Well, I say there we go, but I do have some chicken on me. And I think I've tried breeding these guys with chicken before, and it didn't work. I think I determined it has to be rabbit, but the mod page really seems to think that I should be able to use both. So we're just going to use this key to hop inside here and give it a shot. No, unfortunately it does not look like it, so I am probably going to have to go rabbit hunting, because I would really like to breed these guys and start working towards getting some different morphs, which there are lots of in this mod. I'm very excited about it. In the meanwhile, they do have a little bit nicer of an enclosure than our smaller lizard friend up here. They have a couple of sunning spots, they have a little hide, they have a grassy area for them to lay eggs when I do inevitably get to breed them. Ideally, of course, I don't know very much about hognose snakes specifically, but I know like ball pythons and a lot of other snakes would want more climbing space, but again, this is Minecraft, and this mod in particular, the way its enclosures work, it doesn't really allow for that very well. So we're just going to play a little bit of pretend here, and pretend that this is all they need, and this is a super ideal habitat for them, and they're very happy in it, which they do, at the very least, appear to be quite enjoying their sunning spots. Now, one other thing that you might have noticed if you managed to take a peek beneath that hide is that I actually have poppers lined up beneath all of these terrariums, and that is because these guys do have drops every once in a while. You can see we already have 2 snake sheds here. And that can be used to make these bags and these... Alright, calm down. I'll sleep and then continue. Gosh. What was I saying, actually? I might have completely lost that thought. Right, they're drops. They drop snake sheds, which I can use to make scoots, and I believe they also drop these tooths, which aren't really useful for much besides bone meal right now, but I don't mind collecting these in case the mod gets an update and they have a use later on, or, you know, in case I'm running really low on bone meal. Now, the last thing about this space is that this corner is a little empty. I'm not super great at interiors. The lab is still not entirely decorated, despite my high ambitions of having decorated that out many moons ago. Nothing else has happened with it. Very much on my to-do list. Oh, hi? You're adorable, whatever you are. Small bundle monster? Oh my god. Can I befriend you? Hold on, I have to go do some research. So, the mod that little guy is from, Collector's Caravan. Where did he go? Oh, he's down here. It pretty much... It's just a collection mod. It just adds little things you can have and display, and I'm guessing that includes this guy. It came out with a pretty big update a while ago. While I was still struggling to work on this build on and off, so I haven't gotten to explore a lot of the new content, but I know they added new mobs, and this is a small bundle monster. My guess is that if I kill him, it drops a bundle, but I kind of would rather keep him around. He's really cute. I'm just gonna name tag him and hope that will make sure he doesn't despawn, I guess. Once again, a creature will be subjected to my completely uncreative naming habits, so we're gonna call him... You know what? We'll call him Bunk Cake. He could be a very tiny cake, couldn't he? Oh my gosh, he's so cute. I will just leave him in there for now, since I don't think he can open doors by any means, and I'll figure out a place for him later. What a cute little find. And a little bit of a random one for that matter. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is kind of the other reason, or part of the other reason, why this video has taken so long to get out. And it's that I've been having a problem with world generation for a while. Now, before anybody panics, I did fix it. Somehow. I'm double checking that now as a matter of fact. But I'm not entirely sure what it was. I have narrowed down the problem to a couple of specific mods that just... Well, I guess we can kind of see it. It doesn't seem to be entirely fixed, but there's some chunk loading issues where sometimes when I get to new areas with unloaded chunks, they just take an unreasonable amount of time to load, as you can kind of already see happening here. Now, I'd gone to another area of the world where I was having this problem and managed to load in a lot of the new chunks that, you know, I've been having these problems with. So, I'd hoped I'd fixed it, but it seems as though I haven't entirely. I'm not entirely sure what is causing this error. I thought it might have been an issue with sodium, or Embedium specifically, since this is on Forge, but my game cannot unload Embedium at this point. It is much too heavy of a mod pack, rather. And besides that, it didn't seem to like it very much when I tried. I also thought it might be the Fish of Thieves mod, since the areas that aren't loading, you can kind of see it's partially over here, although I have been up here before, but it's this big, I can see this big water area. I'm kind of on a little bit of a coastline there, and it was down here in this big ocean, so I thought it might have been a problem with too many fish entities or something like that. In particular, as I saw in my log, there were a couple of errors with Fish of Thieves structures that it was adding, so I thought it could be that. I disabled them, re-enabled them, I deleted some things, I tried re-adding some things, and it worked down here in the south, the area that I just showed. Or rather, I guess nothing really worked. Once I'd re-enabled everything and given up, it just kind of started working. But unfortunately, it does seem as though we are still quite slow out here in the bamboo forests. I do still have a couple theories about this. One of them is that Alex's mobs, or Alex's caves rather, is causing some issues just because of the size of the mod and the fact that it makes giant underground, essentially structures, although they are biomes. But they're rare enough, large enough, and heavy enough on the computer that that may be causing an issue. I can't quite tell if there is a cave, an Alex's cave biome rather, beneath here, unfortunately. Even with my magical X-ray vision powers that I have. It doesn't seem like it, because it would be a much bigger space. So my other guess is that somewhere around here there is a structure that is struggling to load in for whatever reason. Struggling to generate, maybe, or maybe there is an error with something that I did have to remove for error issues. Unfortunately, I'm much too far in this world to fix this very much, so I'm gonna have to think through some other solutions, since I did not fix it the way I thought I did. That may come down to deleting generated chunks outside of kind of where I've built entirely and regenerating the world, seeing if that helps. Ouch. Flying and talking, not my greatest skill. It might also just come down to having to deal with it, having to essentially make scouting runs to pre-generate chunks before I want to record, since I definitely don't think I would like to record while actively dealing with that. For now, however, I think we are going to wrap up this episode here. It has been a very long time coming. I'm very sorry to anyone who's excitedly waiting on it. But overall, I am very happy with how this turned out, all things considered. Although I admit, the longer I look at this snake, the more I think it looks a little bit like a really skinny seahorse, but I'm gonna ignore that. I'm gonna ignore that. And, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a wonderful day, night, whatever time it is for you. Stay safe out there. See you next time. Huh. Well.